Blessings in abundance, blessings in abundance, blessings in abundance on this evening. How y'all doing? You know who this is, Jason Miller. And check that spelling. I got my dog Pepper here with me today. So if you see something black, I mean I'm wearing black, but if it starts moving, you know Pepper's right here next to me on my lap. So on today, of course, today's episode is brought to you by God's Gift. Like I told you about the gear, you saw the hemp, white bloom hemp. You guys saw the Green Buffalo. This is the God's Gift. So again, we got a lot of merchandise. Make sure you go in and get the shoes as well, so we can get the shoes to rock with the merchandise. It's kind of how this whole style goes, right? MCs are jumping out of shoes and socks. Yo, I'm about to get into New York in a couple of months, and I'll be hitting up the DJs. We're gonna bring some shoes, and we're gonna drop some tracks. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. Keep it moving on today's episode of I'm Not Saying Nothing, I'm Just Saying. This is a special episode because this is actually featuring my guy Billy Carson. Now, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness as far as a religious person or my religious preference or beliefs, but he's speaking from a specific perspective and he's drawing contrast. And it's very interesting. His entire take was a very interesting take, and I absolutely think it was phenomenal how he was able to go from the historical artifacts first and bring those facts to then contrast it against what is erected as religious beliefs for people to then be subjected to or subjugated to. It reminds me a lot of the government and how our government, we elect these people, but this governing body make these decisions that ultimately affect us, or they make rules and decrees like he said, and we have to live by. But if something he said after that is what is really the thing behind why I'm here today, and I want to take the time to play it for you guys. So before I go any further into me, I want to show you what Billy Carson just said in his report, and then I'll get back to you.
To realize that we're all God and we're all divine, and everything is connected to us. So I'm not talking to anyone right now. I'm talking to myself, because there's only one consciousness that exists. There's only one being. There's only one. Separation is actually an illusion. Separation is an illusion. We're all one. I'm speaking to myself, and when you're talking to somebody, you're speaking to yourself. We're all just one different aspect or fractal of the divine spark. That's it. And when everybody understands that, life could be so easy, so tranquil. There'll be no problems, there'll be no stress, no trauma. That's how you create heaven on earth. By teaching that message. That message, that's the message that needs to be shared around, you know. And so
now, the reason why I wanted to start there is because in my previous episodes, you know, I talk about a lot of in-depth, detailed things that are happening here on Earth in the world that we're living under. Y'all saw the mosquito, right? Bloodsuckers everywhere. Anyway, I digress. Now, as we know, right now we're living in a world where things are changing around us, and a lot of legislative actions are being taken on our behalf, and it's not necessarily benefiting us. What does that have to do with the governing body? The governing body is the body we elect to be in power. Now, some of these people are in temporary positions, and those people who are in temporary positions that we elect, they have to run every year for elections. Now, the more temporary positions are like president, vice president, and so forth, but those are like 4-year jobs. 4 years, 8-year max, and then that's it. You're done. You can't work there again. That's the end of your career. You got to find something else to do with your life. But that's a painstaking process. That's a very selective process, and that's a very democratic process. I'm not here to talk about democracy. I'm here to talk about what Billy Carson just spoke about, because he was contrasting the Jehovah's Witness religion and how the 8 men that are in charge or make all the decisions for that entire religious institutional body, and how deceiving that is. And if we actually took the time to pay attention, as he said, to realize that we are all God, there is no separation. We are all connected to one consciousness. I give you an example. I used to live in Sawgrass Estates North. I had a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, beautiful house. Now, while I lived in the house, my ex-wife at the time, Jessica, lived in the house, my 2 daughters, and our in-laws were with us. Her mom was with us as well. So while we had 5 or 6 people in the house, all at any given one time, because again, you're dealing with a 5-bedroom house, 2 stories, It was a lot of space. The cool thing or the interesting about that is if everyone's looking out of the window at the same time, they all have a different perspective and a different view of life. And that's exactly what this is. The fundamental difference. A, the illusion of time. B, the illusion of separation. Meaning, as he said, once we all be awakened, we raise our level of vibration. We think and we go outside of the box in high forms of consciousness to understand the connection. Then everything makes a significant difference. Now, today I have with me the sun and the moon, kind of like yin and yang. Now, what's interesting about this is something people don't know about me is that I'm a Tai Chi meditation master. Now, in studying and taking the time to go to the Providence to learn Tai Chi to become a master, there are a lot of different processes I had to undertake and go through myself. This process that I'm showing you as far as the sun and the moon is just something to give you a lesson, a learning lesson today. The sun and the moon, they rotate around each other as they rotate in my hand. Now, I want you to understand the key aspect of this technique. But before I get to this technique, I want you to understand something much deeper. Now, there are bells here, and you can hear them. But as the mind quiets, the sound also disappears. And it's a process of mental health, also a process of cognitive focus, because I'm able to clearly communicate, illustrate, and at the same time demonstrate something that to most would be very technical, but to me it's the very least because of the levels of mastery. And that's what life is about. I called on men to step up and rise to the occasion because it's significantly important. Now, you cannot understand your divine purpose until you raise your level of expectation, your standards, and your vibration. You can't give yourself the level of ambitious fortitude or mental, intellectual fortitude you need if you don't strive beyond the limitations that are around you or the setbacks that may follow. Because there's a saying, when you pursue your passion, provisions are always provided for your plans. But again, if you have no plans, there are no goals to be met. And if there are no goals to be met, there's no need for provisions. Once there's no provisions, then it creates a situation and a dynamic of lack, insufficiency. And that happens in many ways. As I said, I talked about men and the leadership that men uphold in the nation as a whole and also in the family. See, the head is nowhere without the neck. They're connected. And that's why I said if you've been in a relationship for 3 to 5 years and the function is not functioning, the head and the neck don't connect, and all you have is trauma, then you need to reassess. And I say that from a point of love and respect, because for this to work, it requires peace and love, harmony. So for me to do anything with anyone, the process of me rotating these balls and thought is about being in peace with myself and love, harmony. Because you can't walk in love unless you are in harmony. There's no way for you to actually walk in love unless you can walk in harmony. You can walk in hypocrisy. You can walk in democracy. You can walk in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different stages, in a lot of different things. But you can't walk with love without harmony. So people say the opposite of love is what? Hate or war? Or the opposite of peace is war? What is it? What is the opposite of peace to you? What is the opposite of hate to you? What is the opposite of love to you? Because we're all connected to the same energy. There's no separation. We're all functioning on the same consciousness level of vibration. It's just like if you put, or perfect example for you to understand, if there's a river of water and you throw a rock in, the ripples that start at the beginning aren't going to be the same ripples that get to the shore. Now, if you are doing an experiment and you put yourself in a small bowl and you drop something in a small pot, then those ripples may bounce back and forth, but they will not bounce back and forth with the same level of vibration. And that's what I want you to understand. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us all to raise our vibration. Something I said before, and I'm going to say it again. Because right now, just like my man Billy Carson, and again, you did a phenomenal report, man. I love it. Absolutely love it. Just like he covered with his report here. And I don't want to take up too much of his report because I want to put the link for his report in this so you guys can go and watch that, and make sure you follow him also on YouTube and check out his stuff as well. But the purpose of me doing this is because I want you to understand how your power and your divine connection exists. That's the purpose behind it. But we have to raise our level of vibration and raise our level of consciousness. You got to raise your standards. And it's easy for women to say, oh, I'm raising my standards, I'm changing this or I'm changing that. But for a man, your level of standards of raising is going to be based on the core values of who you are as a man. It's not going to be based on what you feel. And that's the difference with the bag and the build. The bag is based on feelings. The build is based on dedication and harmony. Because for you to build it, you got to work in team, in harmony. Yeah, you could build something and have a whole bunch of dysfunction, but it's not the same when you can build it and everything works perfectly. Even when opposition comes along, because life is always going to bring those oppositions to you. What matters is what do you do with them? And that's the point of the conversation again. It is time for us to raise our level of vibration. I'm going to get into a little bit more of his report so you get a chance to understand a little deeper from what he was saying as it relates to the situation, the time, and where we are right now, or his thought process on that. Check it out.
And so we have to focus on doing that, passing that knowledge around. Again, this wasn't to try to bash anybody for being Jehovah's Witness. I'm just laying out the facts and showing the receipts, guys. It's a sick thing. It's a sick religion. And it's something that's really damaging people. Mostly young women are the worst. They're the ones that are mostly committing the suicide. They're the ones that are mostly being put into these forced random interrogations and asked about their private parts and ejaculations and orgasms and all this crazy stuff. Fluid comes. I mean, I wish I could play it for you, but I just can't. There's videos, there's entire 2 and 3 hour videos on YouTube about people who escaped that thing and what the torture and the trauma that they lived through while they were in it. So anyway, not to beat the dead horse, guys, but
Again, that was him being able to break down, as he said, the religion and the built-up religion. Now, it's funny and it's interesting because my guy, Lonnie Brinson, Redeeming Word Christian Center, make sure y'all check him out too. Sunday churches on Sunday service on Sunday, 10 o'clock. But what he was talking about on Sunday, he started a series called Reject Religion, right? The concept is to reject religion because the purpose of religion is to rebind, is to re-enslave you, is to put you in bondage. People think that's completely crazy, but The idea, the concept, and just like he talked about in his report, how those people just follow the stuff the women go through it, that's because of religion. It's the rebinding, the retraining. You do this, you gotta. But again, the difference is, if let's take this another level, right? In his report, he said there's no pearly gates in heaven. It's the stargate that we walk through. And how that happens is because your heart is weighed against the feather. And if the feather is heavier than your heart, then the stargate opens up and you are allowed to enter into that celestial body. That's the old Egyptian thought process and mindset to it. The Theory of Science and Spirituality, Volume 4, actually covered a series where we talked about the similarities between that very same process and what the Christians call the heaven pearly gates of people. And I mean, you see the images lined up with the pearly gates of people, standing. I actually have a couple of images and paintings that I drew of a similar process, and that's what made this so interesting to me while I wanted to speak on this as well. Now, the concept or the idea behind that is that from a Christian perspective, God knows your heart. God judges your heart. That's what God judges. Now, the thing about it is this, right? So if God knows your heart, God judges your heart. When it's time for your heart to be judged, does it matter what you've said to people or how long you've pretended that it wasn't what it was? That's just something for you to think about. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying. And that's the difference why we right now need to raise our level of vibration. We have to raise our standards and raise the bar for our sake. Because again, as I've spoken before in previous reports, I've talked about the New World Order agenda, and I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but again, if you're paying attention to anything that we've been living through, the major global, massive, multinational corporations are the ones making all the money and the profit and are going to be in the power to then institutionalize the governments the way they want to, based on their lobbying and agendas. Now, you see the pharmaceutical industry, like I've said, we've seen the oil industry, like we said, we see the war going crazy, and of course, we're still living in that pandemic right now. So with that being said, as we stand in this moment right now of history and all those things are correlating to then lead into that next recession, to take us to that next breaking point, to remove our freedoms, to infringe on our privacy, because again, once we move forward, there will be no more privacy. Everything you do once this thing is inside of your body will be tracked, recorded, and be used against you. So you talk about weighing your heart on one level as it relates to the old Egyptian gods, but just like the religion in the contrast with the Jehovah's Witness, and I started this process by saying the religion reminded me of how they institutionalized U.S. governments, and like these 8 families or these 8 companies are kind of like the ones who are making all the money behind everything that's going on, and everybody's just kind of getting screwed out of everything that's happening. It's kind of the concept of what I'm trying to share with everyone, or really what I've been saying. I'm not saying nothing, but that's kind of what I've just been saying. To add to that, to give you a bit more, say, depth to the conversation, in that very same process of those corporations making and taking actions for their benefit and controlling the wealth for a large aspect of this process, as our president has left $1 trillion, like I said, donated a couple $100 billion, is now committed to go all out in a whole guns, no hold barred war with both Russia and China at the same time, using NATO and democracy as his allies to go in there, guns blazing, you know, like the cowboys. After this entire process is done, if we don't raise our level of vibration, and we don't raise our level of energy, and we don't evolve as a species, meaning start to intellectually evolve, start to entrepreneurially evolve, start to bring in forth new light and new technologies, we will be subjected to everything that the corporation has already planned for us. And there's nothing any of us will be able to do about it. Because like Cat Williams say, they don't just lie to one of us, they lie to all of us at the same time. So you can act a fool if you want to, but don't say I ain't tell you. I'm not saying nothing, y'all. I'm not saying. That's my time. Listen, again, today's show has been brought to you by God's Gift Luxury. Make sure you go on and check us out, support the gig, support what we're doing, support the show. I'm actually going to be taking the show as well on a live radio station. So as soon as I get the contracts done with that, I'll let you know what that looks like when I'll be broadcasting, and I'll bring that show live on air, and I'll let you know where you can actually log on, listen to me, and then participate there as well. Because again, the conversation is not just for me to then bring here. The conversation is just for us to have a larger perspective. The difference is more people are having the conversation and opening the ears. Like I said out. Shout out to Russell Brand, 100%. That's my man's. He keeps on bringing the information and bringing the truth forward. And I'm definitely looking forward to today's episode of what just happened in Britain with Boris Johnson stepping down, because that's something that's crucial to everything that's happening from that standpoint. And the question that I have to ask as well, you know, I asked the question, will Europe, the West, and G7 sacrifice India? I've asked that question. And with more Western sanctions planned against Russia and China to restrict oil, to stop business, to cut off Russian gold, what is that going to do in the relationships for business, trade, economy, and also partnerships and also industries? Because if India is cut off from the world, the West, based on these sanctions on their side of the world, while India at the same time is neglecting their position of authority, because right now it's okay to be a bad guy. You are in a world at war. We all are. But I'm talking specifically to India, because they play a very key role into this entire process. India can either be a martyr to Western democracy, or India can lead the charge and be the bridge between China and Russia and keep peace. But that's how you keep peace, not by relying on the West. You can't get peace from relying on the West. You are there in what the West calls the Middle East. So if you don't understand that the same Middle East that the West have labeled, they left $1 trillion army there that you have to deal with. Cutting off China's business opportunities to then go to other BRICS countries doesn't help your position to hold your seat in the BRICS, especially with China wanting to expand with other companies and other countries, as you see with the business going to Brazil. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just giving you an example of what I'm saying. But I'm not going too far on that. My question, deeper level, a depth behind the conversation is, what if Boris Johnson knew about it, and in seeing and facing this, he's decided, you know what? I did the G7 summit. I see where these people are going. I've done enough, and my people are stepping down. So guess what? It's time for me to just gracefully bow out. I'm not saying it, y'all. I'm just saying. So again, that's my time. You know exactly who it is. Jason Miller. Roll the well and check that spelling. Listen, man, make sure you go on YouTube. You subscribe on YouTube, man. Better make sure y'all start subscribing on YouTube, man. And make sure y'all start following the videos and sharing the videos and putting them likes and comments on the videos as well. Also, jrlmiller.com. Definitely want you to go on, because I'm not going to ask you and challenge you to empower yourself without giving you an example for you to see what is possible by you just challenging yourself. And that's it. So when you go to jrmiller.com, I'm not saying that to stunt on you. I'm showing that what's possible for you, because we're all a part of the same consciousness. One person can get an idea over here and another person gets an idea over there. What makes a difference? What the fuck we do with it, the mindset. But now is an opportunity for you to raise your level and see how you can inspire yourself to take that next level and aspire to be more than just what everyone is in the confines of complacency and comfortableness. But God bless, God's best, and as always, y'all know exactly what I be about. Godspeed.